It's about 2 a.m. and this is our farewell trip to 5 peaks. We're going to do 5 peaks for the first time in the Charleston wilderness. The reason you're seeing total darkness here is because it is totally dark. I thought we were going to have a little more light. The moon is near full, so that's going to be amazing. So what we're going to do, we're starting at the South Climb Trail, and we are, or the trailhead parking lot, going to run down to the North Climb, or the Trail Canyon trailhead, and then head on up to Fletcher Peak. From Fletcher Peak, Mummy Mountain, and then Lee Peak, Mount Charleston, Griffith Peak, and back home. So, or back home, back actually to the South Climb Trailhead. So, hoping that we're looking at no more than 14 hours, which would put us back at 4 p.m. So we shall see what happens. Anyway, exciting evening. It's about 32 degrees right now. I'm imagining that at the high point, at the first high point before the sun rises, we'll be at Fletcher Peak, and it should be, could be around 10 degrees up there when I hit Fletcher Peak. And I'm imagining 2.5 hours per peak. So be at Fletcher Peak 4:30, Mummy Mountain 7 o'clock, and then onward 2.5 hours for each additional peak. So let's see what actually happens. And it is the second Saturday in November of 2019. Well, I've broken out of the forest in the Trail Canyon Trail. I'm just below the junction. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm pointing up at the stars, and yeah, I'm not sure that anything is visible here, but a beautiful, beautiful starry night, and I've just broken out of the forest. So heading on up. It's about, let's see, about 3:15 right now. So onward we go. At the junction between Trail Canyon Trail and North Loop Trail, and here's a 360 degree view of where we are. 3:30, looking to be up at the top of Fletcher Peak by 4:30. Well, it's 4:10 and we're at Rain Tree. Not much on a 360 degree view here. However, you can see my light on Rain Tree. Okay, wanted to get to the top of Fletcher Peak by 4:30, maybe about 10 minutes off timing here. Here we go. Well, here we are at the top of Fletcher Peak, our first peak. The first peak of the 5-peak circuit, Fletcher Peak. There's the summit box there, and let's get a look around us. Can't see a whole lot still. It's 4:45, so we're about 15 minutes slower than our estimated time. Except I did start out, when I actually started it was 2:10, so 5 minutes off. And these lights that you see, there's Centennial Hills. those lights, and down in this direction, those lights are Charleston Village. Here, let's see. There's the stars. Charleston Village. Las Vegas. Centennial Hills. And I guess north on 95. Not sure what that is down there. Anyway, there you have it. And now we're going to hightail it to the top of Mummy Mountain, and hopefully we'll be there by 7 or shortly thereafter. 7 o'clock would put us right back on time, but no promises. It will be light up there, so that's going to be nice. It's really taken for granted and amazing that we expect the sun to rise every morning. And I can tell you, after being out here in the dark, I'm looking forward to the light and the warmth of that sun. It's probably at this point, with the wind chill factor, down to 10 degrees. So, and I'm wearing a light jacket, and like a windbreaker, and a t-shirt underneath, and a tank top. But it still equalizes my temperature, because I just have been going uphill, a lot of uphill, and at some points I've actually been too warm. But this is enough standing still for now. Onward to Mummy Mountain. On the way down from Fletcher Peak, just about back at the North Loop Trail, but wanted to show you this. What we see here is Fletcher Peak, and here's the sunrise over Centennial Hills. So we're starting to see sunshine, which is really cool. It is 5:19 at this time, so hoping for a 7 o'clock summit of Mummy. May be more like 7:30 or 8, but let's see what happens. Here's Mummy's Toe in the first light of day, and below is Rain Tree. Sorry, I'm swallowing a power bar at the same time that I'm talking. So, excuse me, I think I'm inhaling that power bar. Anyway, here we are heading down the North Loop Trail. Nice silhouette of the bristlecone pine trees. So what you're seeing is the very first moments of sunrise. Okay, let's head down around the North Loop Trail to the junction, and then up to Mummy Mountain. And I'll look back at Fletcher Peak. The first part of sunrise here. Few clouds up there, which is definitely going to add a lot of color to this sunrise today. Another good shot of Fletcher Peak in the sunrise. So now we're getting to where we can see stuff. And look at these bristlecone pines, also in the first light of the sunrise. Boy, that sun sure makes a difference. It totally lifts my spirits. After having been in the dark since 2 a.m. So here's your 360-degree view. Love that silhouette. Okay, we'll be seeing more of the sunrise as we progress here. Okay, here's why I started at 2 a.m. because now I'm heading down the North Loop Trail and I'm seeing the entire south ridge of Kyle Canyon in the first sunrise. And what you're looking at here is Harris Mountain. Then over to Griffith Peak. And then along the south ridge of Kyle Canyon. From the lower to the upper south ridge. And just in the corner here, well, right in the center of the screen now, you can see the very top of Mount Charleston, or Charleston Peak as they call it. And then more very beautiful scenes, Bristlecone, Mummy Mountain's Toe, bathed in the first light of the sunrise today. So this is pretty awesome. And there is Fletcher Peak. So that's our 360-degree view. Let's move a little bit further this way so we can see more of the south ridge of Kyle Canyon. There we go. South ridge all the way from Griffith Peak on the left. The upper south ridge is where the trees end. And then just the tip of Charleston Peak. So here we are. This makes the whole thing worthwhile. Right here. It's the golden moment. Okay, onward. I better really get moving if I'm going to keep my time here. One more quick 360-degree look here. There's Fletcher Peak. And moving along. Let's see. Harris Mountain. Right through the trees there. Well, let's do a little better than that. There's Harris Mountain. Griffith Peak. And let's go over here. Pick up at Griffith Peak. Here's the south ridge of Kyle Canyon. First light of day. Mount Charleston. And the toe of Mummy Mountain. and Fletcher Peak again. Okay, yes, I do need to get moving. Another sunrise 360-degree view. Here's Harris Mountain in the center. Griffith Peak. South ridge of Kyle Canyon. And in the foreground, in the sunrise, there's Coxcomb Ridge. Okay, continuing up the south ridge of Kyle Canyon, the trees disappear, and we're on the upper south ridge. And there's Charleston Peak. And continuing around, you can see the rising sun here, painting the rock. And what we're looking at here is Mummy Mountain. Which is our next destination, actually. And then back at Harris Mountain. We'll do one more because the sun is just painting the mountains and the rocks by the second almost as it rises. There you have it, a beautiful, beautiful moment in the Charleston wilderness. This is the 5-peak circuit. We'll see if we can do it. And if you look at the 4-peak circuit, we started on the other side, the South Ridge, and went up to Griffith Peak, and then up along the South Ridge right as the sun was rising, and we were looking in this direction. So if you want to see some great views of the sunrise from that South Ridge looking in this direction, go to the 4-peak circuit page of LasVegasAreaTrails.com. Okay, onward. Back at the North Loop Trail, there's you can barely see it, a deer. There it goes. What I mean is back at the junction between the North Loop Trail and Trail Canyon Trail. And that direction takes us up to Coxcomb Ridge. This direction takes us back down to the trailhead for Trail Canyon Trail. And this direction is the direction we're going to summit our second peak, Mummy Mountain. And there is Mummy Mountain in the sunrise from the junction. So there you have it. And our time is way off. We're supposed to be at the top of Mummy Mountain in 30 minutes. I don't think it's possible. It's more like it's going to be an hour and a half, if we're fortunate. So, yeah, a little bit off here, but continuing along. Here we are at the mummy tree. It is 7:35, so yes, I'm very much behind time. A few things that I had to work on strategy-wise in order to even get to this point. Kind of interesting. And there's the avalanche slope we're about to go up. Well, for one thing, coming down Fletcher Peak in the dark. Wow. I nearly lost the trail a couple times. And two ways that I found my way down Fletcher Peak, the trail is not really good, even in the day time and in darkness. It's it's even more of a challenge. So one thing I did is I looked at the stars and kept a certain star formation, I think it's Orion's belt, to my left on the way down, and that helped. I was watching the trail very carefully, and sometimes it was only just a little dust on rocks that would let me know that yes, this was a trail. And so and then I eventually I saw Mummy Mountain's toe come into view. I thought for a while I was heading down the wrong side of Fletcher Peak. Nothing looked familiar on the way down in the dark, but those guides, the stars and Mummy Mountain's toe as the sun began to rise, let me know I was on track. So that helped me. Then descending all the way down to from 10,300 feet down to 8,700 at the junction. Boy, and then starting up again, that just exhausted me. I was about ready to consider turning around, but I thought, few things can be employed here. One is that if you keep fueling yourself, eventually you'll catch up and you'll do all right. So I had a couple power bars. Another is strategic rest. I rested about 20 minutes instead of turning around. That was just about 10 or 15 minutes ago. And what else did I employ? Oh yeah, didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night. And so one thing you can do if you ever are in that situation is you can actually convince yourself that you had a lot of sleep. It's a mental thing. And so I began to employ that strategy and had a caffeine pill to dilate the blood vessels, and that helped. So all of those strategies I employed to get to this point where I believe I'm ready to head up the avalanche slope instead of turning around and giving up. So up to the top of Mummy Mountain, and 7:39 right now, so we're way off, but hoping that on the way back we'll pick up some time once we head down from Charleston. I've actually made it down from the summit of Charleston in about an hour and a half to the South Climb Trail. But we have Griffith Peak also to summit on the way down. So, and there's Griffith Peak right in the center. So that should be an interesting thing. By the time I get to that point, how am I going to feel? We'll find out. But I'm going to keep trying to employ all the things that I just spoke about and see if I can actually gain strength on the way up. Okay, signing off. Well, I'm about 2/3 up the avalanche slope I call the horrifying half. It's a half mile of slippery, slidey rocks and gravel. But you can pick out a route, stick with the larger rocks and around the and stay close to the edge of any rock formations. And I haven't slipped once, and you can see the angle of this slope and the gravel. Wow. So it's a matter of, as I say, finding the hidden stairway. And here is, whoa, yeah, it's kind of a precarious spot. There's Griffith Peak, south ridge of Kyle Canyon, and I'm just taking it easy and actually feeling pretty good. That's another strategy that I use. Don't kill myself on the uphill because it'll just sap your energy. And so I'm high stepping, taking a lot of smaller steps as I ascend, and ascending. Every placement of my feet is a placement that is solid, believe it or not. You can find those placements along the way here. I mean, you see these rocks here, and there's a large rock underneath. I mean, you just look for micro holds. And the less that you slip, the more energy you conserve on a avalanche slope like this. So continuing on up, feeling pretty good right now. Okay, signing off. Wow, we're at the top of the horrifying half, which is a half-mile avalanche slope. And there is the slope. We just came up that. But as I said, there was a stairway all the way up. And you just have to find the right spots. You get used to it after ascending once or twice. Now, on up to the summit of Mummy Mountain, our second peak today. Feeling pretty good right now. I think I gained energy coming up the horrifying half simply because it was a whole different set of muscles that I was using. So a steep uphill doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to use more energy. And I took shorter steps and lifted my feet high and placed my front foot on the next highest level, and then raised myself up rather than pushing up with my back foot. And that saved a lot of energy too. So there are strategies that help you to ascend something like this and actually stay even or even gain energy on the way up. There's a good shot of Griffith Peak, the south ridge of Kyle Canyon, and right behind this tree in the foreground is Charleston Peak. But we are heading up right now to the top of those cliffs, which is the summit of Mummy Mountain, our second summit. Onward. And our third peak is front and center, Lee Peak. So we got to get up to Mummy first, but it's a good view of Lee Peak right there. Here's a great view of the route to the summit of Mummy Mountain. I'm going to continue along this ridge hugging the upper part. You can see a trail is emerging right down here. I'm going to join the trail. I have been on the rock up here. Let's see. Yes, there you go. I've been on this rock, but now descending back to the trail. It seems like the most secure and best way to get up Mummy Mountain. And then what I'm going to do is circle around and up. And you see there are two cliffs and a row of trees in the middle. I circle around the right side and summit to that row of trees, and then so I'm on top of that. There's a walkway, basically a ledge, where that row of trees is. So I'll go along, take a left up at the top here, and go along that ledge until you see that V-shaped opening. I'll take a right at the V-shaped opening and continue on up to the summit of Mummy Mountain. So that's the route. It's not marked, but there are signs of people having taken this route before, so that helps. It also helps just to know generally how to get up there. It looks impossible from this point, but actually it's very doable. Okay, onward. As I said, you get up to the top of the ridge, you take a left, and it'll take you right to the base of that cliff, and you saw that there's a cliff below, but there is a walkway up there. I'll show you when we get there, and that leads to that V-shaped entrance canyon to the top of Mummy Mountain. As I mentioned, we saw earlier on the video a cliff above, band of trees, and a cliff below. Very decent ledge here. And then you can see that V-shaped approach canyon to the summit of Mummy. So definitely on track here, and the up for the second summit of this day. I want to show you a few other things though. Getting a very good view of, down the bottom there of the canyon. That's Lee Canyon, and Bristle Cone Pine Trail is right down in that area. In fact, here is, you can see that parking area. That's the parking area for Bristlecone Pine Trail. Not many cars there at this point. The Bristlecone Pine Trail is above. And over this way, here's Lee Peak, our next summit after Mummy. And then Charleston Peak. So Lee Peak, Charleston Peak, and get you a 360-degree view. I just came up this approachway, and sometimes the trail appears, sometimes it disappears, but it's definitely no exposure here, meaning no chance of slipping and going off the edge of a cliff. It looks like there would be from looking below, but actually very, very nice ledge right here to walk along. So there is our 360-degree view, and you can see the ski area down in Lee Canyon. And at some point we'll take the approach to Lee Peak from Lee Canyon, and I believe, see that ridge, right? It begins right up here and it's that high point. It goes steadily all the way down to the bottom. That's what I'm going to try to summit with, and there is that ski tower right up at the top of that ridge. So, and we've seen that in the Lee Canyon to Lee Peak page. So I'm going to find that ski tower at some point. Not this week. This week is the 6-peak circuit, provided that I hold out. Feeling really good though. But at some point I'll find that ski tower, and hopefully that'll be where I head down that ridge right there that takes us all the way down to Lee Canyon. So that's a future experience. And there's of course Lee Peak, Charleston Peak, south ridge of Kyle Canyon, and Griffith Peak. So 4 peaks to go. We'll see how things progress. And by the way, here's a look at that upper cliff. And once again, it looks like it would be impossible to ascend this, but there is a beautiful little opening in the sun straight ahead. Okay, onward. Here we go, up the final approach to Mummy Mountain. And here's that V-shaped canyon. So let's just take a look at how things look here. And by the way, there is the opening. Little log with some rocks on it, just so you can make sure that you don't miss it, because there's only one way up, and it's right here. And as you can see, the V begins very narrow, but then it fans out, and you see where the light is up ahead. There's nothing that is difficult here. It's just a matter of getting a good footing, holding on to the rocks, and I left my hiking sticks at the tree you saw with the rocks on it just a moment ago, and that frees me up to use both hands on this canyon. So it's kind of a fun little rock climb. Okay, onward. Surprisingly, it's just 5 to 10 minutes of climbing up, and I hugged the rock that you see to the right, both on the way up and on the way down. This is looking down. Beautiful. I love this little V-shaped canyon. It just frames Mount Charleston so beautifully. And after just 5 minutes, you know, here's the summit just ahead. So it's a very easy little canyon to climb up. And so continuing on up, we're almost at the top of Mummy Mountain. Well, here we are topping to the summit of Mummy Mountain, topping that V-shaped canyon. Give you an idea what we just came up. From this angle, it looks impossible. But as long as you just take your time and stay to those rocks on the right, you can find your way down carefully with natural steps. Okay, and then you see a ridge ahead and Lee Peak, and Charleston Peak, our next two peaks. But for now, we're going to celebrate Mummy Mountain and the summit. And one of the reasons I stopped here to take a video is just as this is the only way up, unless you're really into serious rock climbing, it's also the only way down. Now, Mummy Mountain is so beautiful, and it's, I don't know, half mile to a mile along the top. It's just a huge mountain, but it's natural just to want to wander around. And once you wander around a bit and enjoy these beautiful bristlecone pines, then you're looking for, where is that canyon that leads me back down? And there's a lot of places along the top that look kind of like this from this perspective. So you want to really watch the little rock cairn here, and I think there's another matching one over in this area. Maybe not, can't see it, but this rock cairn plus that tree, plus if you get lost, the summit is right around the corner here. So, in fact, you can see it right there. That is the summit of Mummy Mountain. So from the summit, well, you just go back up to the summit if you're lost up here, and look for this tree. And then from the tree, look for the rock cairn there. Or just look at the tree, and from the tree, head straight for Mount Charleston. That's a great reference point, and that'll take you right down the canyon again, so you're not in danger of getting lost up here and wandering over the edge of a cliff trying to find the one canyon that easily takes you down Mummy Mountain from the summit. Okay, so onward to the summit, and I'll just give a quick view. See, it's right up there, and we'll go up there and take a look. Here we are on the summit. There is that tree I was mentioning. Good marker for on the way down, finding that V-shaped canyon. And here is the summit. So this Mummy Mountain is my favorite mountain top in all of the spring mountains, the Mount Charleston Wilderness. Why is that? Because it just extends forever. I'd say from one end to the other, it's a half mile to a mile, and every inch of that has the most beautiful bristlecone pines in, some of them look like driftwood, and form some amazing formations that an artist couldn't figure out in 1,000 years. And then there are some living bristlecone pines that are just so beautiful up here. So, yes, I love Mummy Mountain summit. And from the summit, of course, you can see a great shot of Griffith Peak. And from Griffith Peak, actually, you can see the whole south ridge of Kyle Canyon from Griffith all the way to Charleston Peak and Lee Peak's sitting there. So from this spot, you can easily see in almost one frame 4 of the 5 mountains that we're hoping to summit, and the 5th one down in that direction. You see that looks like a green hill from this point is Fletcher Peak. We stood on that not too long ago. So yeah, my timing is all shot for the day. So we'll see how things continue to progress. It's 9:15. I was hoping to be here by 7, so we are 2 hours and 15 minutes behind already. Hopefully we can pick up some time a little later. I was giving 2.5 hours per each peak, and it took 4 hours to get from Fletcher Peak up to Mummy Mountain. And by the way, I'm focusing here because here's another mountain that we've looked at and summited. It is Harris Mountain. So there you have it. One of these days I'll do all 6, but not today, because that last stretch from Griffith Peak down to Harris Mountain, and there you can see the ridge there between Griffith on the right and Harris on the left, and then back down that ridge to the South Climb Trailhead. That's a 6-hour experience, and maybe in July when we've got a lot more sunlight, I'll try that. But we're going to lose our sunlight about between 4 and 5 today, and I want to be at least to Griffith Peak by that time. So we'll see how that all goes. So anyway, beautiful, beautiful views from up here on top of Mummy Mountain. And except for that cloud layer, which is hanging over the Panamint Mountain Range down in that area, we're looking toward Pahrump and beyond. It's a pretty clear day. We're looking straight at Telescope Peak in the center, except you really can't see it because of that cloud layer. Anyway, we'll see if that clears by the time we get to Lee Peak, because it is a very clear day. The sky is very clear, not too hazy, except for the band of clouds up there. Okay, summit of Mummy Mountain, our second summit in the 5-peak day, and we got to keep moving. So heading back down and over to Lee Peak, which is our next peak. And then after that, Charleston Peak. It's actually 11,900. We're 11,500 approximately right now. So as you can imagine, we're going down and up. And then finally, Griffith Peak. And if I can continue to gain energy as we move forward through the power bars and a lot of water, and my backpack gets lighter in the process, we just may make all 5 of these peaks. Okay, signing off. Heading back down Mummy Mountain, heading for Lee Peak. Reason I stopped here is that here's a little cairn that measures the distance from to the South Climb trailhead if you take in Griffith Peak exactly to the foot. 15 miles. So we got 15 miles to go, but a lot of climbing, a lot of up and down. So anyway, onward we go. Well, I am totally exhausted. I don't know what's going on, but I think I'm going to make it to this bend up here, which is probably an hour from Lee Peak. I'm going to turn around, head back. Like I said, not sure what happened. It is an awesome, beautiful day, and I love being up on Fletcher Peak and Mummy Mountain, but it looks like I'm not going to make Lee Peak, Charleston Peak, and Griffith Peak. That'll be for another day. I think that maybe I need to lose about 5 to 8 pounds, because I had been down to that ideal weight of 155, gained about 7 pounds back, put me up at 162, and it really makes a difference. And in addition, I'm nearly out of water, so I don't think I can make it all the way around the South Loop, up at the top of Charleston, around the South Loop, with the water that I have left. So that's an interesting experience. Anyway, beautiful, beautiful day, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Learned a lot. Okay, onward. Okay, this is about as far as I'm going to make it today. I'm at a bend in the North Loop Trail before it goes up to Lee Peak and then around to Charleston and Griffith Peak. Not making the 5-peak circuit today. You know, part of the reason that I have made it so long without any mishaps is I've learned to read my body. And my body is saying that there's just no way I can make it the rest of the way around the loop today. I'm projecting forward how I'm feeling right now and how much is left. And so I'm going to play it safe, head back, and live to climb another day. So, anyway, as you can see at this bend, totally beautiful views. Mount Charleston, and I'm standing right on the edge of a, I don't know, 2,000 foot drop off. So I'm not going to get any closer to the edge than this. You can see Charleston Village in the distance over here. You can also see, let's take a look over here. Coxcomb Ridge. And then, of course, Mummy Mountain that we just summited. And yeah, not only Mummy Mountain, but there is Fletcher Peak. So there are the two summits we made today. And I just think that coming up from this direction for some reason is a lot more challenging than starting at the south climb, going up to Griffith Peak and over to Charleston and then coming down. I think that might be part of it too. So maybe the next time I try a 5-peak circuit, I'll go around the other direction. There's a great shot of Coxcomb Ridge with Harris Mountain in the background, and then over here Griffith Peak, and then through the trees there Mount Charleston. It is just so beautiful up here. Look at these trees, and they live right on the edge of this outcrop. Imagine the blasting winter that they get. And then looking down, this is kind of interesting, but looking down, there are snowfields down there, which is pretty amazing. These snowfields never melted all the way through the summer. That's the definition of a glacier. So I think it's the huge amount of rain in the last 12 months and cooler temperatures. Who knows? They'll all probably melt next summer, but you never know. Maybe we actually have glaciers on Mount Charleston area. Who knows? Okay, well, that pretty much concludes the adventure for today. The rest is just heading back home. Let's see if we can get a good shot of Mummy Mountain. There we go. There's a great shot of Mummy Mountain. My favorite summit. Okay, heading down, and we'll live to climb another day. And you see on the right of Mummy Mountain, there's the toe of Mummy Mountain. And one thing I'd like to do before the end of this season is ascend that toe. And it is very possible. I know a route that would get me up there and stand right on that pinnacle there. So we'll see. Anyway, onward and back homeward. I'm actually liking this little pinnacle here. What an amazing, unique view of Charleston Peak and Lee Peak. There they are. Charleston on the left, Lee on the right. And then you can actually, the sun's not in the best position, but you can actually go from Charleston Peak and view all the way along the south ridge of Kyle Canyon to Griffith Peak. So very cool perspective. People pass this area. I've passed it many, many times on the way up to Charleston Peak or Lee Peak, and never actually, it's only about 50 feet off the trail, and I've never actually come out here. So very cool. So there you are. Well, I'm on the way down below the mummy tree at this point. There's Fletcher Peak in the background. I think I figured out what was wrong today. I have not been above about 8,500 feet for the past month to 6 weeks. And earlier I had acclimatized myself to the altitude that's up higher. Today I all of a sudden went from about 8,500 feet that I'm used to up to Fletcher Peak, which is 10,300 feet, and then Mummy Mountain, which is 11,500. And all I can say is no wonder. I was feeling sick and exhausted, and I think it's totally that I have I let myself get out of conditioning for the higher altitudes. So that's a lesson learned. I earlier had made it a point to condition myself gradually to the higher altitudes, but somehow I got involved in the lower altitudes and doing Coxcomb Ridge, which you see directly in front of yourself, and I didn't get above that for a few weeks. So that's the whole issue. I believe I'm back down at 9,400 feet right now, and I'm feeling much better. So let that be a lesson learned, to gradually work your way up to whatever altitude you're shooting for, and not just go from 8,500 up to 11,500 without any conditioning. Okay, onward and back down to the trailhead. And by the way, the symptoms of that altitude problem were the headache and exhaustion and even some nausea. So feeling of being sick. So if you are on a trail and you're feeling those things and you have suddenly jumped up 3,000 feet above what you're used to, then don't assume that it's just because you're tired that day. It could be reaction to sudden altitude change. If I do a particular altitude 1 week, I can go ahead and do that same altitude, or maybe even a little higher the next week. But if I haven't done it, then in the past few weeks, then no, I can't jump it. Okay, signing off.